Hello, let's talk about today's Hearthstone video. We're coming at you with the top 5, kind of cheating, 6 decks. You'll see what I'm talking about here in a little bit to play before the next expansion that comes out in mid-November, which I'm kind of excited about. Let me know how excited you are in the comments down below. These should also just obviously be the top decks to play to get Legend in the month of October. I can't imagine any nerfs or buffs or anything like that's going to be coming now until the new expansion. So let me know. Number 5, as you can see here up on the screen over that way, Secret Rogue, sitting at almost 54%, but 53.88%, which I admit I'm kind of surprised about. I like this deck. I think there's a good amount of randomness to it, but a lot of skill in how to use what's given to you and the resources properly. Of course, I think what really pushed this over the edge was Yogg-Saron Unleashed, as we'll probably see maybe in multiple decks on this list. It's a pretty solid deck. Really just kind of keep control of the board with all your secrets, all your value that you get from your potions and things like that. Yogg-Saron if necessary, and you just sort of get your opponent down over time. But not even a long time. Most of the time, it's pretty quick. Not a long time. Because the sun don't shine every day. But anyway, sorry. Yeah, it's a nice deck. I think part of the reason I like it is because there's a bit of randomness to it with the potions. It takes skill to run it properly. But it's not like a crazy high skill cap or an OTK deck either, which is kind of nice. I don't like OTK decks. It's a tempo-based deck in my opinion. Not super aggressive. Not really control. And then it plays Yogg, which, again, we'll see probably in most decks here on this list. At number 4, it's probably my personal least favorite, so come at me, I guess, if you disagree. On the list, we have Drum Druid sitting at 54%. I don't think it was exactly 54%, but I either forgot to put in the decimals, or at least it's pretty close. But yeah, I mean, I think this was on a previous list, so I will not take very long. For those who aren't aware, basically the idea is to just survive, play all the stuff you need to be able to get your drum circle to have both effects. You get cultivation to cost 0, or I mean, because this summons 5, so you know, get it to cost 5 from playing your other effects. And then usually with all the ramp, I would say sometimes by turn 5 or turn 6, you effectively do drum circle to summon 5. What would that be? 5 4/6s with taunt, and then you plop down a free cultivation on top of it because it's almost always free by then. And you just kind of overwhelm your opponent. And if they don't have cheap access to full board clears by then, you're kind of just out of luck, which is sort of the reason I think this deck is my least favorite on this list. It's just because your opponent either doesn't have what they need, which happens often with the amount of different draw that's in this deck, or you just have to have the perfect cards if you even have them in your deck for a board clear, and it just doesn't feel very good, in my opinion. But yeah, let me know how you feel about this one in the comments down below. I kind of hope that maybe the next expansion deck like this drops a little bit in win rate and popularity. But that's just me. Some people like to play this kind of deck, so who am I to really say? Now, at number 3 here, we have the Silverhand Pure Paladin. I mean, it's Silverhand because, of course, really the major difference is you are playing things like your Jukebox Totem, Muster for Battles, Warhorse Trainers, I guess, and things like that. But it plays pretty similarly to, I guess, what we'd call the old aggressive or Divine Shield Paladin, which is basically spam out as many things as humanly possible as fast as possible, and took my hand off the mouse for a second, use things like this Crusader aura to just say, you know what, if you ever leave me with a board with like 5 minions on it, we're just going to take over, right? And you just kind of work through that. Your opponent needs to have usually tons and tons of board clears, and then even if not, if you don't get to beat them by then, this deck, just like all Paladin / Pure Paladin decks, has a decent amount of actual late game bombs that they can drop, which includes draw power, more draw power, some cheap legendaries. We won't say free because technically they cost 2, and things like that. Overall, though, I do think this is my playstyle of deck. A lot of the times, it's very board centric. It's very, I actually almost weirdly enough wish may tried a version without Crusader Aura. Obviously, this is just a 3-turn Savage Roar, for lack of better words, as a threat for people. But I'm a big fan of board control style decks, which in reality this is. And then if your opponent fails to board control, this is your payoff, right? So, yeah, I guess without going into it any further, this deck hasn't changed much. I would say, focusing more on the dudes or the Silverhand Paladins might be sort of the change compared to the weapon that was really popular for a while. But yeah. Now, the number 2, and I'm just saying that with a little bit of a hesitation because you'll see the reason I said there's 6 is really this is kind of number 3, but number 2 deck here we have Enrage Warrior, which kind of comes and goes, I find, in the meta, and every once in a while it pops up and starts doing really good, currently sitting at 55.52% win rate. And I think we've seen it on one of these lists before. If you haven't, kind of the purpose of the deck is to get things out. Where are we here? Like your Anima Extractors, but really you want to get out your Sun Fury Champions down so you can go Anima Extractor, maybe Battle Worn Faceless, anything that you can get that's injured in the first few turns, and then buff them with things like the Imbued Axe. Jam Session kind of just helps you there, an Acolyte of Pain to draw. And your payoff is the Imbued Axe, that just allows you to get really big boards really fast with all these early minions. And then, of course, if that's not enough to push you over the edge, your secondary goal kind of is that the buffs from this Anima Extractor in your hand to hit things like Remornia, Grommash, or Decimator Ogra. And then you can kind of hit them for some late game, just sort of smashes and charges that they're not expecting. So lots of early game pressure with some hopeful follow-up if they can't beat you with this. And I think the deck is not, I don't know, it's a lot more consistent than I would have given it credit for. Obviously, Foul Eggs are in there in case you kill your own things, Sanguine, all that fun stuff. Now, this is actually a deck I don't think I've ever played on the channel or never really attempted to play. I admit it is a high skill deck most of the time. Some people don't think it is, but at higher ranks, if you don't play this deck well, it does not perform very well. So, but let me know if you want to see me try it. I might fail as someone who has not really played Enrage Warrior, but that could also be fun. The reason I kind of said there's 5 but 6 decks is because I find when 2 of the top decks are in the same class, I kind of put them together. So here we have at the top, probably again, no surprise to anyone in the majority of these videos, we have the Hunter. So this first deck I'll show you technically has the lower of the 2 win rates, but they're both obviously quite high, and it is the Arcane Hunter. Pretty self-explanatory. I hate to say it, but I think these decks have been around long enough. You just have a bunch of arcane spells, some traps. I think this is actually very similar to the next deck I'll show. There's just probably a little less traps in this version. So apologies if they feel too similar, which is why I wanted to basically say they were one. But you play those, you buff them all up, and you just can, smack your opponent in the face really hard. And you go face, and you have Ancient Krakenbane and all that kind of stuff for just more damage. And then these portals really help you control the board. These bows, even nerfed, are still way too strong, at least in my opinion. Here's the next deck, as you can see, slightly different. Definitely a lot more traps, or definitely more traps in here, and falls off. It has things like the collateral damage and Yogg Saron for finishers. And puts a little bit more effort into said traps. But overall, a lot of the same things. It's just sort of maybe the Krakenbane. You have your collateral damage, and like I said, Yogg Saron and things like that. You're focusing a bit more on control in the early game versus like super cheap arcane spells to just burn your opponent out. But overall, it's Hunter. So as much as I hate to say, other than Beast Hunter from like last year, that was very board centric. Both of these Hunter decks are kind of just do whatever you can. For instance, maybe with the Barrel of Monkeys, it's taunts to stay alive, or use the secrets to kind of cheat some stuff out against your opponent. Oh, it does have Ancient Krakenbane. Apologies, I missed that. But it does not have like arcane shots and things of that nature. So, like I said, kind of similar, but a little bit different. This was a little heavier on the back end. But overall, Secret, Arcane Hunter, however you want to call it, it would be the top deck to play. Again, up to you. If you want to climb, I would obviously recommend these decks if you have the stuff. Not really my thing, but if you would like to see it played, because I got to climb to Legend too, right? So let me know in the comments down below if what you want to see, and I'll do my best to bring it to you. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.